welcome to Leaders with Leverage. I'm Susie Tomanchuk, and I am thrilled to have a girl crush of mine, good friend. I have so much deep respect for this woman, Maika Leibbrandt. Hi, Maika.
Hi, Susie.
So excited that you're here. And for the few people in this universe that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit. What is the elevator pitch that you give people about who you are and where you've come from?
I am a executive coach, and I'm on a mission to help people see that there is enough good work to be done and enough good people to do the work. And if you believe those two things, and you can operate from a place of abundance and truly understand what your talents are and how you offer your best in collaboration instead of competition. I've never said that before. How'd it sound?
That is so, I can't even believe that just kind of flew out of you without. That's what I love about you. You have a mastery of really articulation, especially around leadership. And the reason I'm so in love with Maika, I know it sounds funny, but it's true.
I love you back, Susie.
So I've seen you in front of big crowds. I've heard you on podcasts. Like, definitely follow and look up and Google Maika, because she's done some amazing things. You are able to really help people understand themselves, whether it's a big room full of people or it's one-on-one, and you have this superpower around that. And so excited, because I think this conversation is going to be gold.
Thank you. It is about superpowers. That's just to give people an example. I think sometimes when we talk about this, it feels like, oh, I need to, bookmark that and come back later and figure out what mine is. But let me give you an example. What you just highlighted about me, I would say, is one of my strengths or my superpowers. I'm at my best on the spot, out loud, around something positive and good. So I don't expect that everybody who listens to that would agree that that's their best, but that's the essence of how are we helping people name what they bring to the table so they can bring it more on purpose.
And I love that you said that, because I think that ignites something in me that wants to go, okay, what's mine? If Maika can be so clear and so strong about what she does really well, I can do that too. And what's funny is that the collaboration and you doing that, you've just made me better. And we think about imposter syndrome, and we think about these things that we talk about, and we believe that is this experience that is mine to own and that I have to struggle through. And I want to talk about that today. What is your position on that? And let's kind of dive into what leaders need to be how do they need to surround themselves to be at their best?
My position on imposter syndrome, I'm not convinced it exists. And I know that's like super clickbaity to say, but I don't like the term imposter syndrome because it carries with us this idea that there's something wrong with you, that you are suffering from it, right? Or that you are somehow ill. And I think far too often, similar to how we deal with burnout in the workplace, this idea of imposter syndrome says, okay, we've named it and now it's yours to solve, right? It cannot be environmental, or it cannot be what I believe it really is, which is probably some clues that there's something going on in the relationship that you're in that is lacking trust, lacking transparency, or maybe even just lacking some truth. So my position, I'm not sure that I have practiced this yet, but I would say it's probably, if you're feeling something you want to label as imposter syndrome, that's a clue to investigate further, because there's probably something more actionable, more solvable going on below the surface.
All right. Well, let's talk about how it shows up, and then let's see about what do you do about that? So for me, imposter syndrome is that voice in my head that goes, why do you think you could do this? Or you're not going to be successful. Those things and they're not even that, it's very nuanced to me. It's like all of a sudden me going, why are they asking me to do this? They should ask somebody else that's much better at it than me.
Yeah. And the fear, right? So it also brings the fear. Why are they asking me? And who's going to catch me? and like use one of those old timey canes and yank me off the stage because somehow I was the wrong choice.
Yes. Yes. Like as if there is a sergeant in town
Right.
that
Really,
is
it's probably
going
just
to,
your
yeah,
own self-saboteur, your own judge
yeah,
who lives inside your head. Um, the reality of it is, and I think there's this bridge that a few leaders cross where they get to the other side and they just are over there flagging everybody else across to say, come on over here. Here's the truth. The truth side of the bridge is there are no magical judges. Just like when you realize that your parents are also just human beings, like there's this amazing awakening of there's no man behind the curtain, right?
yeah,
There is no wizard. All of the people that you're speaking with also have their own self-doubt, and you can investigate yours. If I genuinely remember a transformational moment when I earned my master's degree, and I did it online from overseas, and it took me about 2.5 years to do, and it's in adult education. And I remember the moment that I got it, which was an email. I remember where I was sitting and realizing, oh, I feel like I earned my piece, my seat at the table now. Like I feel like I've
wow,
solved imposter syndrome. But what I felt like I had solved was I'm no smarter than I used to be. I just played the game in a comparable way to the people I felt like were in my audience. And
yeah,
I remember almost being underwhelmed of this like anticlimactic moment of, oh, now I have this and now I'm enough.
yeah,
And I do feel like a little bit more solid that I have those letters behind my name. It
yeah,
does help. Um, but I don't feel smarter because of it. I just feel like I've earned it. And that is probably just pointing out how much of a game it all is. And we don't have to play that game.
yeah,
I could whisper back to my old self and say, okay, what is it that you feel like is missing? What is it that you really feel like people are going to call you on? And then how legitimate is that? How credible is that? And how can you offer something good in the midst of it? Also, maybe what is that telling you? You might be a developmental opportunity for you, because that's also, I mean, the fear, the lack, the scarcity, turning it all the way down to zero and saying ignore it probably misses the fact that perhaps those are whispers of opportunity. Perhaps those are nudges in a direction that's going to be helpful for you, that's worth pursuing.
yeah. It makes me think that as leaders, it's a good tension to always have, is kind of what you're saying, is like get used to it and embrace it and know it's kind of like when you feel nervous about going and speaking in front of a group or something and they say, I mean, you're not going to get rid of the nerves. You're always
Something's
going to
wrong if you
feel,
have, right?
yeah. And it's a matter of going, all right, let's be excited. Like, let's rethink about this. Let's reframe this for ourselves that, yes, I'm nervous. That's good. That's a attention that means I'm going to really put myself out there or I'm going to be successful. Like, can we
Mm.
do that with imposter syndrome where maybe we go, okay, there's that self-doubt. What are we going to do with that? Or just know that it's going to be there as leaders.
Susie, do you think that leaders should always be feeling a little bit of that doubt? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Like you, because leadership is all about figuring out what in that other person, what words can you give to them so that they can not have the solution, but that they can have some direction to go in.
Mm.
Because you're not trying to give them the whole map. And so but it's hard because you don't know exactly what you need to say to them to inspire or get that. And you'll never get a lot of feedback back to know exactly if it worked or not. Every once in a while, you get glimpses of that person got promoted, or will be like, what you said to me was something that really landed that helped me get through here.
Mm.
But there's not this evidence that maybe that's part of it too, is what we put out doesn't always have this good job. Check that you did that at your high, that compared to others, you did really well,
There are no
right?
evaluators, right? There's
Yeah.
nobody, which is good, but it's also a little bit unsettling for high achievers who are ready to say, wait, I did everything on the syllabus. Can you check it off?
Yeah. Well, I hear when people start their leadership, they're always like, what books should I read? And I'll have people that will be like, you know what? I'm reading like 10 podcasts and all this, and I'm consuming. And it's interesting to me, but I think it's kind of this evolution of yourself by surrounding yourself with the right people, getting feedback, and consuming those things on your own isn't going to give you all you need. Like, what is your advice that you tell to people as they go through their leadership journey?
I think the maturity of leadership is getting closer and closer and closer to understanding where you're standing in your strongest contribution. So, especially as leaders move through, let's say, a hierarchy, they do have to be good at more things earlier in their career. And ideally, they're honing their toolkit of, you know what, I've got 25 options. Maybe I've read 75 books this year and I can be better than average at all 75 of them. I think what coaches and what experience and what self-reflection and what feedback should do is help those leaders stand even more firm on fewer things that they do with true excellence that also come with ease and that they love. Because ideally, you're getting closer to understanding what is a 100% yes in terms of what you can offer to your people, what you can offer to a project, what you can offer to your community, and how do then you invite challenge on that sweet spot, because that's where you're going to see, astronomical performance and truly multiplicative growth. And that also, if you can be more clear on what you offer, then you can be more specific and intentional about where you collaborate with others, where you bring other people in. And at the same time, I would say the expectation of leaders is also to be a good coach of others, to help other people identify their sweet spot too.
Oh, can you think of somebody that you've worked with? Can you think of like an example of that? Because I feel like that was so well articulated. And I would love to kind of see it in a picture in that journey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can think about somebody who managed to do this for others. There's somebody I lead who leads a highly specialized professional services firm, and they're the owner. And they have always been top of their game in terms of offering the right advice, knowing the right technical terms, subject matter expertise. They were hiring a new marketing specialist and hoping to grow their firm. And this marketing specialist was a high relational sort of person, lots of energy, lots of ease, lots of wow, how did they do that moments when they were networking one-on-one. Well, they were still small. So this person was supposed to also do everything the way the former marketing person did. So they were supposed to be making sure that all of the vendors were doing what they had said, dotting I's and crossing T's. It was not lining up with what they offer. It was like pulling teeth every single time. In fact, the person who I was coaching was this marketer's boss. And they said, I am down to asking this person at the end of every meeting to send me exactly what they heard and what they were going to do next. And no one is happy.
Wow.
And I asked, well, how is this working for you? Right? Like, let's take the focus off of your marketing person. Let's really say, how is this working for you? And they said, I need to get better at coaching them. I'm not loving it. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. The person that I was leading, the specialist, could see exactly where the holes were, exactly where the technical expertise was lacking. And they were just jumping in and saying, do it this way. And they said, I don't feel like a coach. So track number one of two parallel tracks. One is being a great coach to help people understand their sweet spot and do more of it. The other parallel track is getting better and better and better at your sweet spot. They weren't in either one of those. So we said, okay, let's focus on how do you be a better coach? And step number one is you're going to ask more open-ended, more powerful questions of this person that are less about what do you need to do today? Because that's a capacity and execution question that was coming from what my client did really well, but wasn't necessarily the open-ended question that this person needed. And then step number 2, which we can put a pin in and park for now, was going to be, how do I help you do more of what you do best in addition to coaching this other person? Skip ahead to the spoiler alert, the happy ending, or the middle ending right now is we realized we actually had 2 or 3 other people in the firm who were working in areas that were very set in stone, but were a little bit underutilized in terms of their sweet spot. And they had this other person who they had just hired to do what felt like a very different job, who loved organizing. In fact, she came from a place where she used to do all the administrative responsibilities for a giant healthcare firm. And we broke the rules. We said, who says that your marketing guy, who's this bigger than life personality, can't be doing more of that? Have him go out and grow your relationships. Have him shake 100 hands a day. And this piece that it feels like pulling teeth. Hold on. I think you just told me you hired somebody who loves organizing chaos. What parts of that could she take, responsibility for? So we called it abundance leadership. And we said, let's look at investigating, aside from giving it a person, what is the work that actually needs to be done? Let's start there. Let's get really specific about clarifying, what does success look like in the work? And then we can back up and say, where are some sweet spots and how can we connect the dots? Right now, the algorithms on social media keep sending me those logic problems that say only a genius can connect these dots without overlapping the lines. And now that you heard this out loud, your social media is going to tell you the same thing. And I think that that's a lot of it. It's like, well, first you have to erase all the existing lines. First, you have to say, like, what are the dots? If those dots are success in given work, what are those, indicators of high performance? Then you can back up and maybe make those lines be less about what was drawn before and more about, where do people really find their sweet spot? And in order to do that, I think, getting back to imposter syndrome, it probably happens when you've got way too many lines pointing at you, when you feel like being well-rounded is the way to be loved. And you probably feel a little bit of that, oh gosh, I'm never going to be enough, for one of 2 reasons. One is you're misjudging how much people are paying attention to you, because most people are not. or 2, you are stretching beyond in a way that doesn't give you enough firm foundation in where your sweet spot actually is. Because the balance ideally is that you're developing by getting better at something that you're not great at, but that something that you're getting better at is aligned to what you're great at. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that and we just say, okay, I need to be great at everything. And we give away our expertise, our energy, our joy, because we probably discount how great it is to other people if it comes to us easily.
Gosh, that was so good. It made me think about how helpful you were to that leader, because sometimes when you're frustrated with somebody and they're not able to do all the things you want them to do, you're just like, I need to figure out how to get rid of them, or just like tell them exactly what to do so they start doing it the way I want them to do it. And it makes me realize that leadership is about being open enough to understand that you might need help. You might need somebody to help you zoom out to see it. Because that was such a gift to have you be able to look at it.
We all get in our own head, especially, really smart people do, right? Because in your own head is where you solve the problems. I mean, Susie, do you ever deal with that, where people are just sort of closed down and in their own space?
Oh, yeah. Where they don't see beyond. And it's that open-ended question that you ask them that is the thing that opens it up. It's making that space. I think what happens is we are going so fast and we're doing so much, especially in leadership, that you're trying to check the box quickly, and even not even taking the time to consider the interests of the people in the meetings that you're going into. So as leaders, how are you able to ask these questions or coach somebody if you've not thought about what are they going through, or what do they need to shift in order to move into the next kind of place that they need to?
Mm.
And you can't do that by just showing up to the meeting and going, okay, open-ended question, 7 words or less. I'm going to make it up on the fly. You need to be a little bit thoughtful about that. So I find that when leaders can take the time to think about what's coming up and the interests of the team so that they can show up in that moment in the right way for them, it takes you out of your head. Because I think that's the key for leadership, is to not think about your ego. Or it's so easy to jump in and say, I'm just going to get this done because I've done it before and I could do it a lot faster than you.
Mm.
But if you can figure out how to inspire somebody to do it their own way, and get out of your own way.
I sometimes tell my kids the reason that they can't open the door to my home office when I'm on a call is because what I do is give people my full attention. And if they are, running through the office, then they're taking away from my client. What you just described was leadership as coaching, as doing the pre-work to show up ready to give your people your full attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're lifting yourself out of there. Yeah.
Oof. So how does that tie back to imposter syndrome? What are we deciding the solution might be?
I feel like imposter syndrome makes us focused on what we're not enough. And I think the shift, when you don't worry about that and you start thinking about what can I do to inspire the person in front of me, I think that automatically shifts your orientation to being helpful to them. So I'm processing this out loud, but I think that can be a solution to it. I think our own ego or how we're seen, we can get really stuck in these messages and things that we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get out of that, how can we serve this person? What can I do for this person? And not worry about what are they going to think, or it can't come back to us.
Mm. I remember, so I'm a lifetime Girl Scout. And
what does it mean to be a lifetime? Like, are you still?
I have a lifetime membership and a gold award. It means
Wow.
I got all the badges.
Do you still wear your sash?
No, but I should.
Okay, you should.
I might later today. I remember if I was ever stuck in a conversation as a Girl Scout, the answer was always service. The answer was always, how do I serve? How do I give? And there's plenty of that can go too far, where you're giving yourself completely away. But what I just heard in you was, when you feel like you're not enough, what do I have to offer? Because that instantly should put you into a place of, what part of me is complete? What part of me can I offer?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that far of a step to say, okay, when you're feeling like you're not enough, first of all, it's natural. Your brain is wired to pay twice as much attention to threat as it does to reward. So this is okay and it's normal. It means that your brain's doing a good job keeping you alive. Then be able to say, what, maybe I'm not going to be full-fledged enough in every single way for every single person I'm about to meet. But where do I know that I can offer something great? Even if that's just, I know I can nail my intro.
Yeah.
And then get curious about it. Where do you maybe need some help? And then I'm hearing you say phone a friend, because you're in your own head and you probably can't see the importance of who you are and what you can offer and how this all shakes out to be okay in the end if you're not zooming out. And it's pretty normal. I think most of us, it's almost impossible for human beings to think about how they think, let alone to zoom out far enough and see how valuable they are, because most of us are constantly scanning for threat more than we are thinking about how things could go right.
Yeah, it's so true. And we live in our head. The thing about just understanding your contribution into the world and that whole idea of abundance and not worrying and really thinking about how you can serve others, it's almost liberating in a way, because if you stay in your head and you worry about how you're showing up and you're worrying about all this, like, you don't ever experience yourself, ever. You can only learn about the experiences that you provide through the words of others. And so you can't, in order to just be who you are and be okay with that, you almost just have to serve the other person, do your best, and as leaders, just continue to do that and observe the other person to see if how that landed or what you need to do so you can improve yourself for them, because you can't measure that by yourself alone. The only way you can see how well you're doing is having somebody else help you see that, because you can't experience yourself.
I'm reminded of a piece of research that I heard on the Happiness Lab podcast with Dr. Laurie Santos. And the essence of it was that we judge how likable we are as always less than what other people do. So you always discount your value to others compared to what they think about you. And I also think it's key that you use that word contribution, because again, that helps us zero in. I think sometimes if we get stretched too thin, thinking we have to be all things to all people, or we have to be the leader that everyone on our team is going to remember as the most impressionable or impressioning or meaningful, I think that's what I'm looking for there, to everybody, like, then you're missing the sharpening of your contribution. So really what you're looking for is, how can I serve? Think about, okay, and here's another practical way to do this. Study your best partners. What do people voluntarily come to you for to collaborate on? Because chances are people are not coming to you for something that you're not great at.
Oh, I love that.
And that'll help you understand, okay, you know what? You can also pay attention to what they're not coming to you for and stop tiptoeing into that. Stop offering the elements that feel like pulling teeth. So that you can get even better at what you are offering, what your contribution is, because there is, I think, abundant room for growth. Your best is, you have not yet experienced what your best is. You're going to miss the opportunity to get better at your best if you're constantly trying to offer something that you're not quite as great at.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing I've learned about myself is the times that people will say, like, I often tell the story of the first time somebody called me a professional speaker. I was like, what? Like, of course she didn't flinch. Of course she did well because she's a professional. And I was like, they must think I'm a professional. I better act like one. So
Susie, you know what a professional is? It's someone who gets paid.
I know.
That's all it takes.
That's all it is. And it could be $5. As long as it could be from your mom, you're still professional if you're getting paid for doing that.
Yeah. But no, I think there is importance to credibility. And I do think that credibility is something that we should constantly be trying to polish and get even better at, because it's part of how you build trust. And if you're constantly discounting your own credibility, nobody else is going to believe it either.
Totally.
So take stock of, on paper, why should I be here?
Yeah.
I bet you've got reasons. In your experience, why should you be here? I bet there's reasons. Why did anybody who asked me to show up ask me to show up? Now you're building that credibility, because that is a crucial key to the alignment with your talent.
Yeah.
In addition to kind of the emotion and the central piece of joy that you get when you offer that contribution.
Yes. But I love what you said about listening to what people believe about you and taking that as evidence about what you do really well and do more of that. It's so key.
Yeah. Don't worry about it is not the same as lean into abundance, because we're always going to worry about it. It's just give the worry the weight that it actually deserves, which is enough to ground you.
Wow.
And not too much to keep you like on the floor.
Yeah. All right. Well, what would you say? Tell us one thing that you want people to think about around imposter syndrome and what to do with that.
Get curious about it. Investigate the fear. And I'd say that around a lot of things. Get curious about it. What is it specifically what lack do you feel like this feeling is pointing out to you? and write it down, because get it out of your head in some way. Write it down, tell a friend, call a coach, get the experience of, imposter syndrome, I think, is an experience of doubt, which is rooted in fear. And so what is that fear trying to point out? And is there anything worth listening to? There's probably something worth listening to, even if it's just, enough that it'll force you to call a friend who will help you readjust your center of perceived truth. But there also might be something in it that maybe it's something worth developing. Maybe it's a skill worth sharpening. And I think what I also heard us come to today was focus on contribution. What is it that you are bringing that you're certain you can bring?
Yeah.
And then I think, nobody gets to introduce you like you can introduce you with your energy, with the first couple words that you say. So center your introduction. Maybe it's even just how you walk into a room. Center that on something you are certain about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And worry in an appropriate amount about the rest of it.
Yeah. And when you understand your value and you understand that and you say it with confidence, like you just said, that gives permission. Like we first started out when you introduced yourself, and I was like, oh, that makes me want to be that confident too. When you understand your value, you're helping other people find theirs too.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to that. I can tell you some other actionable pieces to end with. I got to that because I had great friends and great coaches who consistently asked me questions about, what do I stand for? What kind of a future world do I want to see? What behaviors do I value above all others? Those are open-ended, not sort of man on the street everyday questions. And I've invested in people who will constantly ask me those sorts of questions so that I can curate my best contribution by peeling away pieces that I'm not. So it's worth doing the homework. It's worth doing it with people you trust. Get out of your head.
People can just write those 3 things down and ask themselves. You've just given, there you did. I knew there'd be lots of gold. It's just falling from the sky.
It always happens with you, Susie.
No,
you bring out the best.
Yeah, I just adore you. Thank you so much. This was good. I think that we need to just stop calling it syndrome and just understand that it's within us, and it's something we need to be curious about and really understand what we're good at so we can lean into it more.
Well said. Thank you.
You make me better. See, you make me articulate myself. I need to just have you everywhere with me. We just travel with me, and
we could do
I would love that. Be my partner.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maika. Tell people how they can connect with you, some of the things that are going on with you. You have something coming up that's exciting. Give us a little bit of what's up, what's new with Maika.
Thank you. So Maika Leibbrandt Consulting is 1 year old as of today, the day that we're recording this. Thank you. It's a private consulting practice. I have no dream of building a business. I just want to do great work in the world. You can check that out at hellomaika.com. Maika is Maika. Leibbrandt rhymes with vibrant, but it's too hard to spell. So the website's hellomaika.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Strengths Talk. I'm leading a course in strengths and resilience for the last time this year here at the end of September. So if you want to hop on into that, check it out. It's all about the relationship between your strengths and how you can facilitate some reach, some development, but also think about the cycles of recovery. So it's a wonderful, a sort of light touch, but heavy topic. So it's only 2.5 hours a day for 2 days, but we'll get into some good self-reflection that'll stick with you for a long time. That's the biggest thing that's coming up for me most urgently. There's always other fun things happening behind the scenes. So stay in the know. Check us out on the website.
Check her out and don't miss that. I actually looked at the dates and I can't make it, but I'm going to go in the next time, but don't miss that one. And I'll put the link in the show notes.
Thank you.
So that people can get that too and understand your awesomeness and fall in love with you too. So thank you, Maika. Thank you for being here today. And I know you'll be back again because I will beg you again. to
My
be a
pleasure.
part of this.
This is just, it makes me better every time. You're one of those people who helps me curate my contribution by really asking those powerful questions. So it's great to spend time with you, and thanks to everybody who listened to us and spent time with us together today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for being here. This has been Leaders with Leverage with my guest, Maika Leibbrandt. Feel free to, if you feel like somebody needs to hear this, share it with them. And that's a win-win, because that makes them know how much you care about them. So thanks for being here. And I appreciate you, Maika, and everybody else here too.